Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode 107. I'm Emily McDermott, and I am here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. The number one thing I hear from moms, all of you out there, I love you so much, is I don't have time to declutter. How many times have you said that? I've said it a few times in my life too. It's okay. Well, today we are going to kind of flip this on its head because I think it's important to, in love, talk about what it really means when we say we don't have time for something, especially something like decluttering, since that is my area of expertise. And so today we're going to dive into these 4 questions that you have to answer in order to find the time that you need to declutter. So this is going to be a very tactical episode. Make sure you have that notebook and pen nearby. And so what do you say? You better grab that notebook and pen and let's dive into today's episode. Hey there, Mama. Are you tired of all the stuff crowding your home, calendar, and mind? Do you wish you could say goodbye to the endless to-do list running around in your head? Want to declutter but don't know where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to Moms Overcoming Overwhelm, where you will find proven and practical solutions to declutter your home, head, and heart. Hi, I'm Emily, a wife, boy mom, and simplicity seeker. I struggled to get pregnant and felt overwhelmed until I discovered decluttering could create the physical and emotional space I needed to become a mom. Now, 2 kids later, I've transformed my life and motherhood by developing simple systems around decluttering, capsule wardrobes, kid stuff, cleaning and tidying, meal planning, time management, and more, and I can't wait to share them with you. If you're ready to reclaim the time and energy you crave, be present with your kids, and finally enjoy the life and motherhood you so deserve, let's kick overwhelm to the curb, shall we? Grab your lukewarm coffee, your notebook and pen, and clear off some counter space. Let's do this. So before we jump into these 4 questions, I just want to share the featured review of today. And if you haven't left a review, I would really appreciate it if you have an iPhone or know someone with an iPhone or have a Mac. If you could go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for me. If you don't have any Apple products, I know in Spotify, you can at least leave a rating. And that would be so wonderful because this helps me share the podcast with more moms. And also, when you're looking for other podcasts you might like, then my show will show up, which would be awesome. So today's featured review comes from Caro Mason, and she writes, "Love this podcast. As a mom of 3 boys, 6 and under," okay, let's pause. 3 boys, 6 and under. Oh my gosh, you are doing the work, my friend. Good job. This is my go-to podcast to listen to. I always feel inspired after listening, and the topics discussed always hit close to home. Thank you. Well, thank you for all the awesome work you're doing as a mom and also for listening to the podcast. And again, thank you so much, all of you who are sharing the show, inviting people to come to the Facebook group at tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. I really appreciate each and every one of you. So let's dive into these 4 questions. If you are telling yourself or telling me, Emily, I do not have time to declutter, and so many of you tell me that, the first question that I want you to write down in your notebook is, what are the schedule roadblocks that are prohibiting me from prioritizing decluttering? Because if we're saying I don't have the time to declutter, I heard this saying once and it really stuck with me. Instead of saying I don't have time for this, try saying I'm not prioritizing it and see how that feels. Woo! That gets me, especially when I say I don't have the time to work out. And then I go, I'm not prioritizing working out. Ooh, and my health. And that definitely has me make a perspective shift. So there is a concept that was popularized by Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and is this concept of big rocks. Okay, so I'm going to explain what this means in kind of a scenario, and then we'll talk about what it means for going through this question. So imagine that you are in a college classroom and a professor pulls out a 1-gallon wide-mouth mason jar, sets it on a table, and then we have some rocks and they're on the table, and he fills the jar with the rocks until all the rocks are to the top. And then the professor says, "Is this full?" And everyone says, "Yeah, it's full." And he says, "Really?" And then he gets a sack of gravel and he dumps the gravel in. And then he says, "Okay, is it full now?" And then they say, "Maybe, I don't know." And then he gets sand and then he puts the sand in and they go, "Okay, is this full now?" And then finally the class is getting it. They're like, "No." He goes, "Okay, good job." And he gets water and pours it in until it's full. And so then the students ask, "Okay, well, what's the point of it?" And somebody says, "Oh, no matter how full your schedule is, you can always fit more." Oh my gosh, side note, isn't this totally what we think? That we can just continue to fit more and more and more into our schedule? But the professor says, the truth is that if you don't put the big rocks in first, you're never going to get everything in. And so the big rocks are the things that we prioritize, the things that we have to have in our day. So that might be your work. That might be your family appointments and commitments. It might be things that support your physical and your mental, emotional health. So what we want to do is look to see what are the schedule roadblocks that might be preventing me from being able to declutter. So I want you to grab your paper planner, or you can just print out kind of a week's schedule that you can probably find a printable online. I love using the Thriving in Motherhood planner, and I'll link to that in the show notes. But you want to put those big rocks and time blocks first. So whatever your work block is, if you are picking kids up from school, if you have medical appointments, anything that is set in your day. And then I want you to look at what other time pockets you have during the day, no matter how big or small. And you want to ask yourself, are you and your family overscheduled? Are there so many quote unquote big rocks that there's no room to breathe? Or maybe there's so many big rocks that means that you're constantly in reactive mode and in chaos. You can't proactively plan or create routines because you're constantly doing something. Or are you noticing that in those pockets of available time, you're falling to distractions, maybe your phone, maybe Netflix, whatever it might be, because of feeling overwhelmed? So you just want some self-awareness there as to, are you actually prioritizing those big rocks, and how are you spending those other pockets of time? Now, question number 2 I want you to write down is, what are the mental roadblocks that are prohibiting me from prioritizing decluttering? Now, we all have excuses about why we aren't doing things. Now, you can call them reasons or excuses, but we want to brainstorm them. And then after we brainstorm them, we want to replace them with truth statements. So I'm going to give some common ones as far as what the reason is, and then the truth statement. Okay. So one might be, I don't know where to start. That's a very common one. And the truth statement could be, I can start in the most unsentimental, unemotional areas. And I talk about this in episode 5 about starting in your car and other places to start. Reason number 2, it's going to be too hard. It's going to require too much energy. And what's a truth statement that we could say to counter this? I can do anything for 5 minutes. And I'll have support to guide me, whether that be the podcast, whether that be your friends, maybe it's the Facebook group, whatever it might be. Another thing you might say is, well, by the time I get started with this, I'm going to get interrupted, probably by my kids. And so then I'm going to have to do something else. So what's the point? Well, the truth statement could be, I can work in a very small area, maybe just part of one drawer, so that I don't get overwhelmed and I can easily come back to it. And that's what I help you in my decluttering coaching, to go through things very systematically, very slowly, so that you don't have to put the entire contents of your closet on your bed and then wonder why you don't have time to declutter it. And the fourth reason / excuse might be, it's just too complicated for me to figure out. And the truth is that you are worth taking the time to move slowly, step by step, in the direction of less stress, more peace, better health, all the things that we can benefit from living in a clutter-free home. Now, the third question I would recommend that you write down is, how much time and energy am I realistically able to devote to decluttering and still stay within my capacity? Now, episode 30, all about capacity and why it's so important. And I understand between the big rocks and maybe those mental roadblocks, even if we're able to overcome those, we might not be able to do 30 minutes or an hour of decluttering at a time. And that's okay. So we want to have a realistic goal and also a stretch goal. Like if you find yourself with more energy or maybe more time than you anticipated, like your husband or partner, they take the kids to the playground and they end up being there for 2 hours instead of 1, and you have more time than you thought. You want to set a realistic goal, maybe a minimum of 5 minutes at a time, and then maybe your stretch goal is 15 or 20. But actually figuring that out and writing it down so you know what's realistic for you. And the fourth question is, given my schedule and those energy constraints, where can I consistently find time to declutter in my week? So you're looking at your paper planner, you're thinking, okay, where do I have those 5 to 15 minute pockets? Maybe you're just starting with once a week, then maybe you can move to 3 times a week, and you can do something enjoyable while you do it. You can listen to this podcast, you can maybe watch a show that you can just kind of have on in the background. You might want to join a challenge in our Facebook group that we do every other week. You can get accountability from other people, or you can get accountability from me as a declutter coach. And I actually, in our coaching, can provide you with a customized step-by-step plan of attack of how you're going to deal with one area of your home to start. And then we can look at other areas too. And I just did this recently for someone in the group who purchased a virtual session with me. And I gave her a list of first you're going to do this after talking to her for 1 hour. And it really helped set her up for success so she could just focus on the next thing on the list. And if you're interested in coaching, you can check out the show notes. All the information is there. So the next time you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't have time to declutter, make sure that you work through these 4 questions. Number 1, what are the schedule roadblocks that are prohibiting me from prioritizing decluttering? Think about those big rocks and how you're going to fit those in, as well as the gravel and the sand and the water, right? Number 2, what are the mental roadblocks or the mindset shifts that I need to make in order to prioritize decluttering and replace those reasons or excuses with truth statements? Number 3, how much time and energy am I realistically able to devote to this and still be within my capacity? Have your realistic goal and then that stretch goal. And finally, given my schedule and energy constraints, where can I consistently find time to declutter in my week? Remember, you can start small, and through the podcast and the Facebook group and also my coaching, I am available to support you every step of the way. On Thursday, we're going to talk to my friend and professional organizer, Emily Conley, about what we need to do to edit our wardrobe and how to deal with the aspirational clutter that is in our closet. One of my favorite points of conversation. So I'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now. If you like today's podcast, here's what you can do. Just take 30 seconds to leave me a review. I know you're a busy mama. You're overwhelmed, in fact, but 30 seconds of your day makes such an impact. I'll be blessed by your words. They'll definitely make my day. And who knows, you might be entered for this month's giveaway. In Apple Podcasts, scroll down to write a review. Thanks so much for your time. I'm so grateful for you.